This past week, like I do from time to time, is I took a 20-minute nap. Now, I don't take it any longer than that, and I always have to set alarm because if I sleep longer than 20 minutes, then I get a little bit groggy. I'm actually more tired than before I went to sleep. But this time when I actually woke up, I didn't know where I was. I mean, we probably all have had moments like that where we wake up and we're not quite sure where we are. Now, in our gospel reading, and partway through the gospel, Jairus' daughter has died, and yet Jesus says that she's not died, she's only sleeping. And then it's interesting, last Sunday's gospel, Jesus is sleeping while the disciples are so-called perishing. And, they wake Jesus up, don't you care that we are perishing? And then if we go to John's gospel, chapter 11, verse 11, just before Jesus raises Lazarus, he says to the disciples, let us go, and because Lazarus is sleeping. So in the face of death, God relates death to sleeping because God will raise us to new life. But as that first reading points out from the Book of Wisdom, is God never intended there to be death. God never created death. We were created in the image and likeness of our eternal God, and we were created eternal. And so we hold on to this, but also we celebrate in this because we are a resurrected people. Now, there's a couple things we can take from this first reading. The first thing is that, let us not blame God for the different things that happen in our world. Let us just take our own responsibility. That's the first thing. The second thing is we're aware that we are all sinners. So we're all on an equal playing field, and let us do our part to help one another, to make the world a better place. And, we only have to do our small little part. And if everybody does their small little part, how great the world is. And if we think about it, if there was no sin of greed in our world, just one of the deadly sins, if there was none of that, it's how much longer people would live. And really, this is what our second reading, the second letter to the Corinthians, is encouraging. The Corinthian community are both spiritually well, and they are also economically wealthy, and so they are to share with the poor people in Jerusalem. Now, it's interesting because the Corinthians are Gentile Christians, and the people that they're going to give to are actually Jewish Christians, and yet they're to set aside any barriers as they are generous with the poor people in Jerusalem. And they were motivated by, Jesus set aside his great wealth of his divinity to live out his humanity. A lot of times people did not know that Jesus was the Son of God, yet it is revealed through many different people throughout the scriptures that this was Jesus' true wealth. And so even as human beings, our true wealth is to share in the divinity of our God. What a great gift that is. Now, if we go back to the gospel reading, both this woman who's been ill for 12 years and Jairus' daughter, Jairus and this woman have probably exhausted the medical healthcare system, and they have turned to the last resort, which is Jesus Christ. So, maybe this is an encouragement, when we are in need of healing, that we can always turn to Jesus Christ. But like 2 Corinthians 4:16 says, our bodies are wasting away. Our bodies are slowly dying, and yet we can be renewed day by day. We can be renewed day by day by the graces that God gives us. You can meet somebody who's very unwell on the outside, the outer body, and yet their attitude towards that is quite well. And they are motivated by God's love, by God's goodness. And so as we gather around the table, Lord, once again, we are renewed on our inner being as we receive this great wealth from our God, and may we awake from sleep and know that we share in resurrected life, that we share in this eternal life, and may it encourage us to be generous with the people that we encounter in our lives.